Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/MagzTV or click the link in the video description below. Over 180,000 titles to choose from, available for pretty much any device. G'day comrades, and welcome back to Cold Waters with Mags, and welcome aboard the Soviet Lira class hunter-killer submarine, more commonly known as its NATO reporting name, the Alfa. The Alfa is one of my favourite submarines ever built. It is absolutely gorgeous in its design, and it carries a lot of unique design features. Firstly, its size. The Alfa is tiny, it's only 81 meters long total length, with a beam of 9.1 meters. Now this small size was almost unattainable by any other submarine developed at its time, due to the size of the reactors actually required to run these nuclear submarines, but the Alfa got away with it by having an extremely unique reactor. The reactor in the Alfa is not cooled by water, it's actually cooled by liquid lead. This made the reactor highly efficient and meant that it could be built significantly smaller than any traditional reactor size, but it did come with a couple of drawbacks. Running a liquid lead coolant meant that the reactor had to be warm at all times, otherwise the coolant itself would begin to solidify and would actually damage the reactor. A second feature of the Alfa's design was its hull. Due to its small size, reinforcements that would be present in a more traditional built submarine of the period were not possible. There was simply not enough space to actually have them in place. So to get around that, the entire hull was made out of large pieces of shaped welded titanium. No other submarine had ever been built in this particular manner, and it meant the hull was extremely smooth, extremely low drag, and incredibly strong in relation to the size of the submarine. And of course, the last major feature of the Alfa, and the one that it's most well known for, was its speed. With the maximum submerged speed of 41 knots, the Alfa is still to this day the single fastest attack submarine ever built. This speed was key to the Alfa's design, as the initial request for this submarine was for a submarine fast enough to not only be able to intercept any ship built by any navy in the world, but also to have a submarine that was fast enough to straight up outrun most of the anti-submarine weapon systems that could be potentially deployed against it. The Alfa is an absolute beast, and as you can imagine, when this thing first hit the waters in 1977, NATO shat a brick. And speaking of shitting bricks, we have a launch transient torpedo in the water. Apparently we've been detected. This isn't incredibly surprising, to be perfectly honest. The Alfa is many things, but it's not the most quiet boat in the ocean. So we're going to send one torpedo down the detected path from the torpedo that's coming at us, and hopefully that'll find something, and I'm going to launch a Moss in the opposing direction. That's to say, the direction that the torpedo is currently heading in. And I'm going to turn into the torpedo's path. Now what I'm hoping I'll be able to do here is get the Alfa underneath the torpedo before it goes active, or at the very least dodge the torpedo once it's active, and have it detect the Moss, which is now travelling away and should be at quite some distance behind me, and hopefully the torpedo will follow. So we're at 20 degrees down on the planes, 25 down on the ballast. I'm trying to dive as far as possible. We do have a signal contact for the submarine, but we've lost it some time ago and never really reacquired it. So I have no idea exactly where it's coming from, although it looks, just looking at that torpedo, like our target is above us. It's amazing how hard the Alfa can actually turn, being such a small submarine with such a powerful engine. And I've just dropped a decoy, but it looks like the torpedo has acquired the Moss and completely lost us. So the decoy was an absolute waste. Torpedo is tracking the Moss. So with how far the Moss is away at this point in time, that torpedo is completely not a problem. So we'll go to silent running. And we just have the contact back now. Okay. Signature. Let's find out what you are. Actually, just a moment. So torpedo acquired something here, or... No, it's still in a search pattern, so it hasn't actually managed to pick up the target. So that torpedo is likely a miss. It's unfortunate. Okay, so let's open up the logbook. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be any of these. These are Soviet submarines. What we're after is our American submarines. Nope. Actually, before we identify this target, let's get another moss in the tube and we'll try and put a... Ah, we only had 2 moss on board. That's unfortunate. Blue whale, humpback, narwhal. That is a narwhal class. Well, that's interesting. There was only ever 1 narwhal boat built. The narwhal was almost a test bed submarine. I wouldn't call it a prototype, but a test bed for new technologies that was actually put into active service. Only 1 boat was built. A lot of experimental tech that was later to go into submarines such as the Ohio and the Los Angeles class was actually tested on board her. She's a little bit older than the Alfa, very late 60s, early 1970s, I believe. And the big thing about Narwhal was she was quiet. She was incredibly quiet. In fact, until the development of the Seawolf class, she was the single most quiet submarine ever developed by the US Navy. I'm honestly impressed I managed to find her at all. So we're set to, yeah, we're going to go up, and the torpedo is set to active tracking. Yeah, 82% solution, that's happy enough for me. We're going to send 1 torpedo down, and I'm going to give the torpedo a little bit of a lead to get away from me, and then I'm going to take the Alfa up to flank speed. At this point, the Narwhal can't outrun us. The Narwhal is not incredibly fast. And there we go, we've just jumped to 94%, so we can take a bit of a look at her, and there she is. Kind of looks like Baby's first 688. Anyways, Narwhal's maximum submerged speed is only somewhere in the high 20s, about half the speed the Alfa is actually capable of. So, since the torpedo now has enough of a lead and is about to go active, we're going to take it up to flank speed. No need to worry about the cavitation at this point. The Narwhal knows we're here, and we're going to start heading for the surface. So 20 degrees up on the planes, 20 degrees up on the ballast. And it is absolutely amazing how quickly the Alfa can change depth. This thing just rockets either down or up, depending on where it wants to go. We're already up to the shadow zone, and we're going to start leveling out here. And just slip in underneath the thermal layer. The idea here is I'm going to follow my torpedo the whole way into the Narwhal, so on the off chance it manages to make a maneuver, I am right there ready to put another torpedo straight into it. And I'm really not concerned about return fire. The Alfa can dance like nothing else. And we've actually lost track of the torpedo at the moment. We're running that hard in the water, it's affecting our passive sonar, and even though we've gone to active pinging, it's still not enough. We're that noisy, we're actually blinding ourselves while we're moving. But surprisingly, this isn't actually too much of a problem. Because the Narwhal is still pinging us, what I'm doing is turning the Alfa to track the Narwhal by following the Narwhal's sonar pings. It's actually painting its own location, or at least a pretty good approximation of its own location for me, so I just gotta follow the sound. Torpedo is... That's interesting. The torpedo ahead of us is ours. Well, both of those torpedoes are actually ours. The one to our left is the one that I fired earlier. The one straight ahead is the one that should now be tracking onto the Narwhal. Or hopefully will be tracking onto the Narwhal. We're actually catching up to the torpedo we fired at the start of this engagement. She still seems to be roughly where I expect her to be. That being said, I'd like to hear her. So rig for ultra quiet so we stop cavitating and start slowing down. And you can see how smooth the Alpha's hull is. Even though we've just shut the engines down and gone down to ultra quiet, we're still doing over 30 knots, drifting very slowly, turning down, more than fast enough to be able to make a snap turn here at the end, just to give us a better look. And there we go, we've just got pickups on our torpedoes. And it looks like we've actually missed the Narwhal, so I'm going to prep another torpedo here, ready to fire at her. Active, we'll go... Oh! Nope, Narwhal is down. The torpedo caught up. We didn't have as good a solution as I thought. Well, there we have it. So we have a couple of torpedoes still moving through the water, but it's a side effect of the way the Alpha plays. You have to be hyper-aggressive in it, because in the end, the American submarines, or the NATO submarines in general, just have better passive sonar than you do. I wonder what happens to those torps. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to check the video description down below for links to my Discord, links to my Patreon for those who wish to support the channel directly and help me out, and for those who are looking for a way of helping the channel and also getting something for yourselves, definitely check out the links to my Audible trial at www.audibletrial.com MagzTV. You get a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial at Audible with 180,000 titles to choose from. Anyways, ladies and gents, until next time, click that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, dive smart, dive safe, and I'll catch you in the depths.